Hello Manchester United fans. Marcus Rashford to have scan on injury ahead of Aston Villa decision on Manchester United forward. Marcus Rashford has picked up a hamstring injury and the Man United forward is in a race against time to play for Aston Villa before the end of the season. Marcus Rashford will undergo a scan on his hamstring injury in the next few days as he faces a race against time to play again for Aston Villa before the end of the season. The 27-year-old isn't expected to need surgery on the injury, and a scan later this week will assess how the hamstring is healing and shed more light on whether the on-loan Manchester United forward can play again this term. Rashford missed Villa's FA Cup semi-final defeat to Crystal Palace at Wembley on Saturday and has been ruled out of their Premier League fixtures against Fulham and Bournemouth, with Unai Emery's side seeking to get back in the hunt for a top-5 finish and a return to the Champions League. Villa face Tottenham on Sunday, May 18th, and Rashford could be back fit to feature in that game. However, that is complicated by Spurs' attempts to get the fixture moved. In a statement on Sunday, they said that they were in discussions with the Premier League around moving the game, which is currently scheduled for 3 days before the Europa League final in Bilbao. Tottenham can book a spot in the final if they beat Bodo/Glimt, and they would like the league fixture at Villa Park moved to give them more time to prepare. If that game is moved forward into midweek, then it will make it more unlikely that Rashford will be able to play. The United Academy graduate is then ineligible to play against his parent club on the final day of the season at Old Trafford because of the loan agreement with Villa. Since his January move to Villa, Rashford has impressed, scoring 4 times and registering 5 assists in 17 appearances, 10 of which have been starts. The loan agreement includes an option to buy for £40 million. Last week, United head coach Ruben Amorim said Rashford would return to the club at the end of the season. However, he isn't expected to play again under the Portuguese, having been banished from the first-team squad in December. All the players that are on loan, they will return, and then the club will decide what to do at the end of the season, said Amorim. Yeah, of course, I am pleased about their form. The talent of Rashford, the talent of Antony, all these players, they have to put that on the team. So we are really happy because if you put a player on loan, the best thing for us is for them to perform, and they are performing. Marcus Rashford's Aston Villa loan spell appears to be over, with Man United star set to miss the rest of the season after picking up hamstring injury. Marcus Rashford is set to miss the rest of the season after suffering a hamstring injury. The 27-year-old picked up the injury during the first half of Aston Villa's 2-1 defeat to Manchester City and could have played his final game for his on-loan club. Rashford has scored 4 goals and provided 6 assists since joining Unai Emery's side in January, but he was kept out of their 3-0 FA Cup semi-final loss to Crystal Palace over the weekend, with Emery predicting he will be out for some weeks. It is not believed that the forward will need surgery, although further tests will be done to determine the severity of his injury. Aston Villa sit in 7th place, just 3 points off the final Champions League spot. However, having been knocked out of the FA Cup, they only have 4 games remaining this season, including one against Rashford's parent side Manchester United. It is not impossible that he could return in time for their final fixture of the season against Spurs on May 18th. Villa's loan deal for Rashford includes a £40 million option to buy, but his future is uncertain. Asked about Rashford's future on Friday, Amorim said, "All the players that are on loan, they will return, and then the club will decide what to do at the end of the season. Yeah, of course, I am pleased about their form. The talent of Rashford, the talent of Antony, all these players, they have to put that on the team. So we are really happy because if you put a player on loan, the best thing for us is for them to perform, and they are performing." Rashford, who came through Manchester United's academy, is under contract at Old Trafford until 2028. However, he is unlikely to return while Amorim remains in charge. Rashford will also have a say over his next move, and it's understood that his representatives will not sit down for talks until mid-June at the earliest. The forward does not want to move to London and is keen to join a club in the Champions League. Villa's hopes of qualification suffered a setback when they lost 2-1 to a 94th-minute winner at Manchester City on last Tuesday after Rashford had equalized from the penalty spot. His camp have also ruled out a player exchange with the likes of Villa's Ollie Watkins and Ebereki Eze of Crystal Palace due to the complexities of a swap deal. Meanwhile, Last week Unai Emery had hinted that Rashford edged ahead of Ollie Watkins in the Aston Villa pecking order as he can play in more than one position. The on-loan Manchester United star was signed mainly to play as a wide attacker but in recent matches had been preferred to Watkins in the no-9 role, much to the frustration of Villa's top scorer. "You always need two strikers and being versatile is better," said the Villa boss. "Rashford is versatile. I want to have players like these two as we try." The transfer turning point that allowed Napoli to sign McTominay from Man United. Scott McTominay joined Napoli from Manchester United last summer, but Gazzetta dello Sport notes that if the Partenopei had signed Marco Brescianini, they wouldn't have signed the Scotsman. McTominay completed a €30.5 million transfer from Manchester United last summer after weeks of negotiations between Napoli and the Red Devils. Antonio Conte was seeking midfield reinforcement, and the Partenopei were close to signing Brescianini from Frosinone. The transfer turning point that allowed Napoli to sign McTominay from Man United. However, Atlanta hijacked their bid and signed the Italian midfielder on loan with an option to buy. Brescianini had even undergone medicals with the Partenopei, but he eventually moved to Bergamo, so Napoli intensified talks for McTominay and managed to reach an agreement with Manchester United. It was surely a blessing in disguise for Conte, as McTominay has already become the most prolific Scottish goalscorer in a single Serie A campaign with 11 goals, beating Dennis Law. McTominay has netted 5 goals in the last 3 Serie A games, allowing the Partenopei to climb to the top of the table with a 3-point lead over Inter and just 4 games remaining. Ruben Amorim handed huge boost with 3 Man United stars returning this week. Manchester United are gearing up for their all-important Europa League semi-final first leg against Athletic Bilbao on Thursday, and Ruben Amorim has some positive news. Manchester United's attempt to reach the Europa League final could be boosted by the return of 3 players from injury. United have been hampered all season by injuries, and they now face their most important 2 matches of the season against Athletic Bilbao in the semi-final of the Europa League. Ruben Amorim's side sit 14th in the Premier League, a competition they haven't won in for 5 matches, and are all in on the Europa League. They scraped a 1-1 draw against Bournemouth on Sunday thanks to Rasmus Højlund's 96th-minute equalizer, but know that their league form isn't the priority right now. Lifting the Europa League trophy on May 21st would ensure Amorim finished his debut campaign with silverware and, more importantly perhaps, secure a place in next season's Champions League. United travel to northern Spain for the first leg of their semi-final against Athletic Club on Thursday before the return leg at Old Trafford on May 8th. Amorim has already made it clear that he will rotate his side in the Premier League, and the Manchester Evening News reports that the game against Brentford on Sunday will see a much-changed side. The team could also contain Amad Diallo, Matthijs de Ligt and Toby Collier, who are expected to return to training this week. Amad has not played since the 2-0 win over Leicester on February 7th due to an ankle injury, but did return to individual training last week. He has 9 goals and 7 assists in 36 appearances this season and has been a rare bright light for United. If he can prove his fitness at Brentford on Sunday, then Amad could be in contention for the second leg against Athletic Club. De Ligt has missed the last 7 games with a foot injury but is also nearing a return. His absence has been compounded by the injuries to Lisandro Martinez and Aiden Heaven, leaving United short in central defense. Collier was described as having small issue in his leg earlier this month and was only ruled out for a few weeks by Amorim. The young midfielder fits the brief of the kind of players the United boss is keen to hand opportunities to in the league. Left-back Harry Amas and centre-back Tyler Fredrickson recently made their full debuts, while Cheeto Obi came off the bench when United were chasing a goal against Bournemouth. Amorim brought off Case Moreau, Patrick Dorgu, Harry Maguire, Kabi Mainoo and Nasser Mazraoui on the weekend, with one eye on the important game in midweek. If they can get past Athletic Club, who sit 4th in La Liga, and beat Rangers in the quarter-final, then a final against either Tottenham or Bodo/Glimt awaits for United.